Hello, I'm Lee Peterson. I'm your host for this WD Cast, which is brought to you by WD Partners, hence the WD Cast. And we call ourselves Thinkers That Do because we have everything from strategy all the way through construction management. And we are at WDPartners.com, so please check that out. These pods are all about super relevant business topics with interesting guests, and today is absolutely no exception. Our guest is Chris Lydle of Google. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Lee.
We're going to be talking about Google's effort at doing BOPIS, right, called BOPIS 2025. So, but before we do anything like that, could you please give us a little bit of a kind of a background check on yourself? Like, where are you from?
Sure. So I've been at Google for about 7.5 years, and I've been in the technology space for, since 95. I'm a veteran of the first .com bubble, working for local newspapers and helping them get online in the 90s, and moved on to some streaming music companies and streaming video companies, and actually worked for a company called Rightsflow that was acquired by Google in 2011. And since that time, I've been blessed to be on the YouTube team, the Chrome team, and currently I'm on the retail strategy team.
Awesome. Well, we're all looking at each other like, well, that's impressive. Well, thanks for being with us. And so this BOPIS 2025, which you and I have done together around the country a few times, but if you could give us a little summation of what that's all about.
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the biggest developments in e-commerce in a real long time has been, the very rapid adoption of buy online, pick up in store, frequently called BOPIS opportunities. And it's been kind of an uneven development. One of the things we talk about in our presentation, Lee, is about how far ahead the game, the European Union is with buy online, pick up in store. But at the same time, we also see a lot of great results from folks like Walmart and Target in their announcements about buy online, pick up in store. So we think that it's a very important space and a very important new fulfillment mechanism. And one of the things that we talk about in our presentation is, some of the things that are going well, some of the things that aren't going so well. But I think the most important takeaway is that the adoption of buy online, pick up in store has been phenomenal, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And, we did a study at WD Partners. We did a study, I don't know, like 5 years ago on buy online, pick up in store. And we had top two boxes, 6 and 7 being the highest, so and percentage of that. I hope you do a good job editing what I just said. But anyway, the top two box study with over 86% of consumers, 2,500 some consumers, put buy online, pick up in store as something that they wanted to see digital retail integration. That's what they wanted to see, buy online, pick up in store. And still, to this day, it's a challenge to go anywhere and find it done the way consumers want it done, which we would call the right way to do it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the things that we discovered as we were doing our research was those retailers that do offer buy online, pick up in store, like 69% of them promote that fact on the front page of their website. The thing that's a little bit of a challenge, though, is that the experiences that consumers get when they actually try to avail themselves of this functionality isn't always the best. So, I think one thing that a lot of our retail partners have discovered is that it's easy-ish to get a ticket to print out remotely somewhere that an order needs to be picked up. It's a much different thing to make that a seamless customer experience and, frankly, a seamless experience for your store associates as well.
Yeah, I've had a few, just in testing, a few different retailers and buy online, pick up in store, and it's across the board. It could be in the back room in a bag, and it could be like I've actually had an experience where I ordered something online and went to the store to pick it up because it was on my way home, and they told me there that they were out of stock, that they didn't actually have it. So I think it's technology as well as operations and like all the above that make it as bad as it is today.
That's right. I mean, and there's the good news, at least, though, is that consumers are becoming familiar enough about buy online, pick up in stores so that we can actually ask them intelligent questions when it comes to the research. So some of the things that research tells us is that they want to know it's in the store before they complete their purchase, right? They don't want the experience that you just had. They want to have multiple mechanisms to enable them to be made aware of when the order's ready, right? So if they want a choice between send me a text or send me an email or call me or any of those kind of things. So the good news is that it's becoming a widely enough used functionality that consumers are starting to get their brain around it. They're starting to know what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and they're able to articulate that. So I think, I'm an old man compared to some of my colleagues at Google, certainly, but I tend to have a longer horizon and tend to be more patient. I think it's amazing how quickly we've come in just the past 2 or 3 years on this, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to refine the solution over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, no doubt, or at least something that consumers want for sure. I think the biggest thing though is the adoption to an app. I had a one-on-one conversation with a CEO of a company. I said, I have a secret for you, and I'm going to show you a great way to do buy online, pick up in store. And she was amazed by the design of it and everything. She goes, well, that's great, except for the problem is nobody wants to download our app. The adoption rate for our app was 12%. Hence the partnership, I think, between Google and WD Partners, because you guys have a solution for that.
That's right. And I think just broadly, one of the great things about this partnership between Google and WD is, we really bring together all the disciplines that a retailer would need to really understand how to implement buy online, pick up in store. Everything from how to lay out a parking lot effectively for curbside pickup all the way to addressing the app problem that you talk about. And one of the things that we believe in strongly at Google is that native apps are fantastic. We obviously, with the Play Store, we actively encourage people to download apps. But the challenge is that 12% penetration rate is actually better than a lot of our retailers and restaurants are getting. So the challenge is that a lot of times the buy online, pick up in store functionality is baked into that app. And if only 12% of your users have that app, you're really narrowing down your audience. So one of the things that we talk about frequently is what can you build with what's already likely to be on the device? So that phone has got a browser on it, right? You can do amazing things with HTML5. That phone is going to have either Google Pay or Apple Pay on it. And with that, you can do things like be able to tap in for identity or pass QR codes for pickup, all those kind of things. Those are two applications that are already on the phone. So we really encourage folks to have a dual strategy. Ideally, you want to have that perfect world where the person has that rich native app, but we also want to have a graceful degradation on the mobile website as well, so they can do all kinds of great things with your buy online, pick up in store functionality without having to download that app that they probably don't want anyway.
So I guess I have my opinions, but in your opinion, who do you think's doing it right?
Well, I think it's hard to argue with the numbers that Walmart is putting out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they went from the number 4 online retailer to number 3 online retailer in Q4, and grocery had a lot to do with that, and click and collect or buy online, pick up in stores had a lot to do with that as well. And so it's hard to argue with the results that they've been able to generate to date. And they do it really well. I also want to give a shout out to my local grocer, Publix, which actually does a really nice job in partnership with Instacart for being able to, do that buy online, pick up in store experience. They do a great job. So, but I still think that no matter the best implementations that I've seen, still have a lot of room for improvement. And I think when you look at the Walmart case, how many iterations they've done in such a short time demonstrates that they know that the first iteration is not the last iteration.
Right, yeah. And one thing we did find out from the studies that we did is people want to pull up to the store and put it in the trunk. You come out, the retailer, you come out and you put it in the trunk, and I just drive away. I don't want, my transaction is done. just stick it in my trunk, and I don't want to get out. I don't want to get out with my kids and go park in the parking lot. And Walmart is one of the few people right now that's not only does that, but they're able to because they're out in boxes. It's going to be a little bit more difficult road for specialty stores like Express, like Jude that we were just talking to.
Absolutely, particularly for those that are located in like a shared mall environment. Doing a curbside pickup out of a large mall, that's a logistical challenge that's on another level.
Yeah, it kind of tells you that it's up to developers in those cases maybe to create like a centralized location where anybody could use the apps that you mentioned and pull up there and buy from 10 different specialty stores, pull up to a locker, or have somebody just come out of a box, in the parking lot and put it in a trunk and go.
And I think those are some of the things, we've talked to a lot of people in the shopping center space, and those are the types of solutions that they're looking for because, frankly, they recognize that consumers do want this functionality, and if they want to stay relevant, they need to provide that functionality too. They just have a different range of constraints on top of them. Yeah.
So, okay, for Joe Consumer, what does Joe Consumer do now? Given your discussion about the apps that people already have. So Joe Consumer has those apps on his phone. What does he do now? He wants to buy something from Target.
I won't use a specific example, but I'll just talk broadly about some of the challenges that come up frequently. I've done a lot of investigation to buy online, pick up in store, and a lot of times what Joe Consumer is going to find when he wants to do buy online, pick up in store, or some type of same-day delivery, is that the dates that they're given are like 5 days in advance, right? So I think that's one of the challenges is that the experience that Joe Consumer is running into in many cases when they're out there trying to do this are turning them away in some cases. So just having the ability to say buy online, pick up in store is one thing, but actually being able to do it in a timely enough manner that Joe Consumer actually cares about doing it is another challenge unto itself. But I know that one of the challenges, that Joe Consumer runs into a lot today is from the time, that they arrive, a lot of times the parking lot isn't really laid out in a way that's conducive to directing them in the right place. So, where do I park in the parking lot? I've seen some big box stores that'll have 2 or 3 spots that are dedicated for buy online, pick up in store. But what if there's 4 or 5 people picking up at that moment? Or what if there's nobody who's picking up and there's 3 prime spots that are being wasted there right in front of the store?
What if I can't read that sign?
Yeah, there's all those kind of things. And then also there's the challenge of for the consumer when I get there, how would I let them know that I'm here? Right? And I think some of the early examples, there's a phone number that's there, or call us when you're there. And I've heard a lot of reports of folks calling numbers with no answer and all those kind of things. So, that kind of experience is not really going to warm Joe Consumer to doing it again. And there's all types of issues, even going further with, once I do get into the store, if it is a walk-in pickup, how do I know that my order's right, before they just hand me 10 bags?
Yeah.
How do I know that that's correct? I didn't pick that. I didn't pack that. So there's all types of additional assurances and guideposts that consumers are going to really need in order for this to be 30-40% of orders like we'd all like to see it be.
Yeah, which is going to happen. I think in a lot of countries that we were talking about in our presentation in Europe, it is happening.
It is happening.
And a lot of that's foot traffic too, but in Europe because they can do that. But nonetheless, they order online, walk down to the store, pick up a bag, and walk back.
Well, and what's really interesting too, and there's a couple things that drive that. A lot of the places where buy online, pick up in store has really taken off has been in denser urban environments, right? So I'm going by the store anyway. I can go ahead and tell it it's going to be there, all that good stuff. But the other thing that's kind of interesting when you look at the difference between the U.S. and the EU, buy online, pick up in store is primarily driven by grocery in Europe. So guys like Carrefour do a fantastic job, and it's really popular in the UK as well. Whereas in the States, to some degree, buy online, pick up in store, grocers are just kind of starting to get that rolled out,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So when you look at I think it's something like 70% of consumers in the UK, 70% of retailers in the UK have buy online, pick up in store, and that as of last year, only 25% in the United States did. I think as grocers start to become online, you're going to start seeing the parity between us and our friends across the Atlantic.
Because that's really what you want to get. Because from any study that we've ever done, consumers really don't like to shop at grocery stores. Most grocery stores, they don't like to shop, and especially the center part of the grocery store. They don't even want to go there into it if they can avoid it. So if you could just press a few buttons and then I'll pull up in my car and get that experience off my back, I mean...
Well, and it's been interesting, too, because I think a lot of the consternation that a lot of retailers have felt around buy online, pick up in store is additional attach rate, right? I came to the store to buy diapers and I walked out with a bottle of Coke and a thing of ice cream. How do we make that happen? And I think that's a real challenge. And, in many cases, I think there's an instinct of a lot of retailers, and I've heard it from so many of them, where they want to put the pickup area in the back of the store to force the user to walk all the way to the back. And there's a very major retailer who I was spoke with recently, where they had this debate. They trialed moving the pickup area to the front of the store, and they found no drop off in attach rate. And the premise being that if you make the pickup so quick and so predictably quick, the shopper knows they have more time to shop, and they will take that time to poke around. So in a grocery experience, I'll agree with you 90%, and people don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to go to the grocery store and pick up heavy bottles of Coca-Cola or
Cheerios.
Cheerios, the big boxes that fill, I get the family-sized box and then my basket's full. So, but I do want to look at my vegetables. I do want to look at the meats. I do want to look at the bakery section. I do want to look at the deli section. I want to pick my chicken, those kind of things. So I think what's an exciting opportunity is if you make it a very seamless experience where the shopper knows that the curbside is going to be there, they come in, they buy the stuff that they want to buy, and then they go out to their car, and then they get the rest of the stuff brought out to them. I think there's a great opportunity to get the best of both worlds where people might actually shop longer and more if a large part of their shopping journey started before they got there.
Now, this could be edited, but a long time ago, I think in the 90s in Columbus, Ohio, we had Peapod.
Yeah.
And so I would get all the center grocery store stuff delivered, and it would be on my back porch on like Thursday afternoons or whatever it was. And then Saturdays, I'd go to the North Market. I'd go to the store and pick my chicken. I'd go buy these 5 different cheeses, the wine shop, and I'd take the kids with me. Those are fun places to shop. And then the rest of that, stuff was basically done. And I thought that was an ideal scenario. And Peapod couldn't cut it. But
well, it was the 90s, right? Late 90s.
Well, yeah.
And I think actually, frankly, that's one thing that I have to remind some of my younger colleagues about sometimes, that we've kind of seen some of this before. If you were around for Webvan and Cosmo and all those kind of things. But I think a lot has changed. It's going to make the Instacarts and the Ships of the world more successful.
Yeah, and there seems to be, some tolerance for longer term investment. Like Amazon, I think proved that road as a way to go. So, top 3 takeaways for our fabulous listeners.
Well, that's a great question. I'd say the top 3 things that I would start with would be have a dual strategy, native app and what you're going to fall back to in the event that your shopper doesn't have your app. Right. I think being much more communicative with the shopper, not only when they're placing their buy online, pick up in store order by saying it is in stock and here's how I'm going to message you, but continuing that communication even when they get to the parking lot. When they pull in, they know where to go. If they're going to go into the store, they're going to know where to go. Those simple things can add a ton to the overall user experience. And I guess the final thing that I'd say, and I'm not certain if I really captured this before, people are excited about buy online, pick up in store. The merchants that have done the great work and invested the time and effort, they want to promote it. But I would hesitate to promote something that is not going to leave a good taste in the shopper's mouth. And so,
Good advice.
yeah, I mean, just at the end of the day, you're only going to get one shot to make an initial first impression, going back to like one of the oldest adages of all time. I think it's a great one to keep in mind with buy online, pick up in store, because if I go to my local big box store and the buy online, pick up in store experience is terrible, there's a good possibility I'm not going to try it again. And there's also a really good possibility I'm going to tell my friends about that bad experience.
We've actually seen some of that in the numbers. When we did the first test on buy online, pick up in store, and that's where we got the 86%. The next one we got about 3 years later was 20% less, and the qualitative said it's because the experience is so bad. I might as well just get it shipped to my house, either that or, damn it, I have to go in the middle of the grocery store.
Well, that's right, and that's the opportunity that I'll just get it shipped to my house, because if they're choosing to get it shipped to their house, they're probably getting it shipped from one of our retail partners' competitors.
The dreaded Amazon.
That's right. I won't say it.
Okay, Chris. Well, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for listening. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.